Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening. Welcome to another PMP Q&A session. Please confirm if my voice is loud and clear. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, great. So let's start. Today, we are going to discuss 10 challenging PMP exam preparation question. So today we will be covering the entire exam content outline. So let me just share my screen and then we will start. All right, so let's start question number one. So one thing, the length of the statement today would be relatively shorter. So please take care, spend some time, try to understand, and then answer. And also, if you have any feedback about these Q&A sessions, especially for people who would be watching on YouTube, you can write your comments under the comment section on YouTube, right? So those comments would be really helpful. All right, and some of you were asking about how to enroll in upcoming course. So simple, you can see a contact number here. So just say hi or hello on that. My team would be sending all the details. All right, everybody. So let's start question number one. All right, everybody. So I request everyone, please answer. Don't shy, right? Nothing is right and wrong. Even some of the questions I need to spend a lot of time in getting the right answer. So don't shy away, right? Just write your answer, whatever it is. And if you really not comfortable in answering or explaining your answer, so you can write directly to me, like I would be answering, but I won't be participating. Or you can write your answer in the chat window directly to me. I can read those explanation without naming you. So the idea is participation, right? So don't hesitate to participate. Whatever is in your mind, just say it aloud. And once again, yes, these are a very difficult question, not easy at all. So yes, I understand. Any one of you or anybody else, if tries these question, it would be really challenging. So no worries, even if you get less score. So it's a preparation, not an assessment. So please, everybody, if we are 15 people here, so everybody should answer. All right, thank you. So let's start. Amanullah, you have chosen option B.
Thank you. In fact, I have faced this for the first time because I haven't faced even through my preparations and readings of such a question. Anyway, looking into the question, many for nothing and change for free, and the last part, which the question is many for nothing mean, as I found that looking into A, B, C, and D, I came to select B. The seller would get nothing if the project doesn't meet acceptance criteria. So in here, I thought that if we deliver the project and it does not meet the criteria, so we will get nothing. Looking into that, this is what I get.
All right, thank you, Amanullah, for explanation. So if you want to see where did we discuss this, so you can go through the contract and procurement section of our class. You can review those class notes, and at the end of that session, we talked about types of contract. And under types of contract, the last one was money for nothing and change for free. All right, thank you. Paul, you have chosen option B.
Yeah, that's what also makes more sense, even though it's a pretty much agile terminology, like or phrase used in agile. But in salvage, in ship wreckage and salvage, there is also a sort of way of saying it that if the salvage is not completed, there will be no payment. So makes me, I don't know, the same feeling of an analogy in between the two words.
All right, thank you, Paul. Okay, Jashri, you have chosen option C.
I read the question, but though I'm not that familiar, frankly speaking, with this type of contract, but going with the terminology itself, it is understood that the client is offered the change for free and money for nothing. So for none of the changes, you need to pay anything, is what I understood from the terminology. And C is more aligned with this understanding. There is no additional payment would be made in case of rework due to the seller. So that's why
All
I
right.
went with the options.
All right, thank you, Jashri. So one thing for everybody, these two are two different conditions or two parts of the clause. Money for nothing is separate from change for free, right? So change for free has nothing to do with the first part of this clause, that is money for nothing. All right, thank you. Robin, you have chosen option A.
Yes, I did get a bit confused with money for nothing and change for free, because if the project is cancelled early for some reason, that money for nothing would be introduced, but that wouldn't apply for change for free. So that confused me a bit about whether I got my answer correct. But I'm still a little bit confused, as you can see. But I would still go for money for nothing. I can't see the other three as applying.
Okay, so Robin, you're saying you have chosen option A to explain money for nothing, but you're not sure about change for free. Is it what you're saying?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so let me help you. Like money for nothing and change for free, these are two separate things. They are independent of each other. So first part of the clause has nothing to do with second part of clause. So that is entirely independent. So just stick to money for nothing part. Because question says, what does money for nothing mean?
Okay. Okay, I think that's the route I was sort of heading on.
Yeah.
That money for nothing would
All right.
be a predetermined amount. Yeah.
All right, great. Absolutely. So correct answer is option A. Why? Money for nothing means if client decides not to proceed with the project. Nothing means no more work. Nothing means no more work. So let's suppose there are total 10 features in the product. 7 features have completed and 3 features are remaining. And client decides not to proceed further. Client decides to terminate the project there. That means nothing. No work is required. However, client has to pay some money. That money is called cancellation fee. So even if client wants nothing, they have to pay a cancellation fee. Why a cancellation fee? Just to compensate the vendor because they have planned for the entire project. Okay. So money for nothing clause is that yes, client has the opportunity to terminate the project before 100% of the work is complete, but in order to compensate the vendors, they have to pay some cancellation fee. So for example, total project budget is $100,000 for 10 features, 7 features are completed. So assuming each feature cost $10,000, so 70,000 plus a cancellation fee, let's suppose $8,000. So total seller would be getting $78,000. Okay. Otherwise, client has to pay in total $100,000. So this is a win-win situation. Client is happy because they have not to pay more money. Vendor is happy they got some money as a compensation for the work which they haven't done. Okay. So correct answer is option A. The client pays a predetermined amount if the product is canceled early. The only option is option A. Let's read the explanation. Okay, quickly, Francis has asked, what's the meaning of second part, change for free? So in agile projects, what happens is sellers or developers, they need active participation from the client. So we agree with the client, like if you cooperate with us, if you participate in our ceremonies, we will incorporate some changes free of cost. Right? So if client cooperates with you, if client is involved in the development process, then some changes would be incorporated free of cost. Again, it's a win-win situation. You get client participation and you get the right information at the right time. So you don't need to do the rework. And at the same time, client is happy because their changes are being incorporated free of cost. So that is change for free. We will be incorporating changes free of cost if you cooperate. Francis, is it clear?
It's clear. It's clear. Thank you.
All right. Next question. All right. So when you explain your answer, be very precise and to the point. Okay. Mohan, you have chosen option A.
I thought I was right, but yeah. So there are two teams here, Team A, Team B, with varying agile experience, right? So, and they're doing the two projects, and the question is, why is it difficult to compare the progress? If it is story points, I remember that it's definitely a relative measure of effort, whether it's t-shirt sizing, large, extra large, and whatnot, right? So the other three options really did not make sense, so that's why I picked it.
All right. But Mohan, t-shirt sizing is not story points. T-shirt sizing is a different technique. What do you mean by relative? I mean, even if it is relative, how it or how you cannot compare performance of two team members. Both are using story points. So for example, one team completes 100 story points in one iteration. Other team completes 70 story points in one iteration. So why can't you compare?
Well, it would depend on the capacity, right, and the experience of the team members. So, and the
I
two
mean,
different.
yeah, you're right. So capacity, whatever capacity is, right? Let's suppose we two are two team members. Your capacity is 300, my capacity is 50, let's suppose, right? And you have completed, let's suppose, 200 stories, I have completed 40 stories. So why we can't compare? We know the capacity, we know the velocity. So I can calculate my percentage, you can calculate your percentage. So why we can't compare? Let's suppose your percentage is 70%, my percentage is 30%. So why we can't compare with the story points? Okay, think about it. Lala, you have chosen option B.
There's team A and team B. So to story point, I think each team is gonna have a different story point. So it's gonna be the reason I picked the B because both of these teams gonna have a vary significantly between their teams, the story points. It's not gonna be the same.
What is meant by that? What is meant by they are having different story points? I mean, difference in what terms? Story point is just a number, 1, 2, 3. I mean, what sort of difference?
Different velocity?
No, I mean, velocity, how velocity is relevant? So my question is simple. Let me explain the question. Question says there are two teams. There is team A, right? There is team B. At the end of a sprint, team A completes, let's suppose, 120 story points. Team B completes 170 story points. Why we cannot compare the performance of A and B? Why? What's the difficulty? What's the problem? So this is velocity. Velocity is what team actually completes in one iteration. So why we can't compare 120 with 170? That is the question. All right, I'll take one more comment. Anton, you have chosen option A.
Hi, Amar, and team. Yeah, it's a tricky questions. I actually think like every single answer has its own strength, but I still think it's A because the story points, they are indeed a relative measure. Like every single story point is just like maybe I'm wrong, Amar, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I take user story is a sort of a feature that needs to be worked on and needs to be implemented and resolved within the project. And that's the difference. Like every single feature or like story point has its own like weight. It needs a certain time to work on it. It needs certain resources, and those resources can be very, very different. So that's why I picked up option A.
So Anton, your explanation is right, but it's not linked with option A. What you're saying is different story points could have different weights, right? This is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
But option C says story points are a relative measure of effort. So it is relative for this team, it is relative for this team. So
I see. I'm making a mistake in the word relative then. They're actually irrelative.
Okay, yeah, okay.
I see. I'm mixing up.
All right, everybody. So let me explain. This is a very simple, concept which is being tested. So now you see, exam does not talk about technicalities or a lot of technical stuff. This is a very basic and simple concepts, but I'm sure you all of know the concept of story points and all the estimation techniques, but sometimes we couldn't understand the basics. So this tests the very basic. So how does actually it work? So when team members estimates, right? So for example, when I say this feature 1, this will take 10 story points. Now question is, what is meant by 10 story points? 10 story points means 10 hours. 10 story points means 5 hours of effort. 10 story points means 100 hours of effort. 10 story points means what? 10 story point could be anything depending on team's definition. Is it clear, everybody? 10 story point does not mean 10 hours. It's a team decision to decide what is meant by one story point. So as Anton mentioned, story point or the weight of story point is decided by team. So teams would be deciding what's the weight of this one story point. Now, weight for team A would be different. Weight for team B would be different. So maybe for team 1, team A, one story point means 10 hours. And for B, one story point means 50 hours. And if both complete 100 story points, 100 story points, we cannot compare them. Why? Because the weight for one story point is different from the other team. And how they decide the weight, that is based on their experience and their knowledge about agile, right? So that's why even if we know the number like 120, 170, we don't know what is meant by 120. 120 could be 120 hours, and 170 could be 50 hours, or 170 could be 300 hours. Since we are not aware of the weight, the effort represented by one story point can vary significantly between teams. That's why we cannot directly compare them. So story point is not the right measure to compare progress of two different teams, right? So yes, you can evaluate the progress of one project using story points, how many story points we planned and how many story points we have completed, but you cannot compare story points across teams because, as Anton mentioned, the weight varies, right? So the effort represented by one story point can vary significantly between teams. This is the specific answer. Option A, story points are relative measures. Yes, they are relative measure, but this does not explain the scenario or the problem which is mentioned in the question. So correct answer is option B. Let's read the explanation. All right, so the effort represented by one story point can vary significantly between teams. All right, next question. All right, Mohan, you have chosen option C.
2 for 2. Typically it should go down, right? And if it goes down, that means the efforts done by the team are working in order to decrease the risk exposure as planned. But in this case, the risk is essentially the risk burn-down chart is essentially a straight stable line across, right? So C makes more sense where the overall risk exposure is not decreasing as planned, suggesting that the current mitigation efforts are insufficient. So that's why I kind of picked C.
All right, thank you. So let's talk about risk burn down chart. We have already discussed, but just quickly. So risk burn down chart would be something like that. Here you have time. And here you have remaining risk factor. On vertical axis, you have remaining risk factor. Remaining risk factor should go down with the passage of time. So let's suppose at the start of the project, overall risk factor is 100 units. It could be 10,000, whatever, right? 100 units. Ideally, it should go down like this. Means at the end of the project, when T is 0, your risk factor should be 0. So it should go down. That's what is called burn down chart, risk burn down chart. Now, in the statement, it says if it is something like this. So for example, it comes here, 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 here. Now, this is the situation where we have straight line. So the question is about if the actual burn down chart line, which is red line here, if it is straight, what does it mean? It means risk factor is not going down. It is stable. If risk factor is not going down, it means there is something wrong. Risk management efforts are not working. So we need to investigate. Because as per our plan, it should go down like this. However, it is straight, means no progress in terms of risk management. So if burn down chart doesn't go down, it means overall risk factor is stable. However, it should go down with the passage of time. If your risk factor is going down, means your risk management efforts are working. If it is going up, means it's the worst case scenario. If it is stable, means risk management efforts are not working. So correct answer is the overall risk exposure is not decreasing as planned. So the first one, the overall risk exposure is remaining within acceptable limit? No. We don't know, as you could see in this situation. It's above the line, means it is not within the acceptable limit, indicating no immediate danger. No, there is a danger. Second option, risk mitigation strategies are in place, but continuous monitoring is required. No, not just continuous monitoring. We need to do something because our risk factor should go down, but it is not going, means risk management efforts are not working. So we should change our strategies. Option D, risk events are not materializing as expected. No, risk events are not materializing as expected. No, we don't know if risk events are materializing or not materializing, necessitating a thorough review and potential adjustment of the risk management plan. If risk events are not materializing as planned, it means risk factor should go down. Does it make sense, everybody? If a risk event is occurred, risk factor should go up. If it is not occurring, it should go down, because as the time passes and risk events are not occurring, risk factor should go down. So D is also wrong. Correct answer is option C. Let's read the explanation. All right, next question. All right, so you're taking more time, answer quickly in 60 to 70 seconds. I'll try to have a timer on the screen from now onwards, but you can use your own timer as well. All right, Vivek, you have chosen option D.
Yes, sir. So actually, I was confused between option C and D. Since both the first option A and B are like kind of making the team kind of demoralized. So sharing the anonymized team results will highlight the overall risk, overall the work style preferences. But here, work style preference is not being asked. So I could think that we need to check with the alternative options to foster collaboration and team building. That's why I chose option B.
All right, thank you. But Vivek, MBTI is to learn about work style preferences. Like, what do you prefer if you are an introvert, extrovert, if you are detail oriented, if you are flexible? So this is all work style preferences. So MBTI is actually aimed to test or to assess the work style assessments of team member. So according to this, the explanation that you have given is not correct. Maybe your answer is right, but the logic is not correct. Make sense, Vivek?
Yeah.
All right, okay. Robin, you have chosen option B.
Yes, from my understanding, the MBTI assessment is more of a personal reflection. So that one seemed to, that option B seemed to stand out amongst all four options.
All right, thank you. And Robin, how personal reflection would be helpful to improve team's performance? So for example, let's suppose we are team members, right? And all of us are aware of our own work style. How this would help us in team building or managing work?
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness, okay. But do you think that if we know the work style preferences of other team members, it would be better or more helpful, or no?
Yes.
All
I
right.
didn't think that far.
Okay, it's okay. Thank you for trying. Okay. So the purpose of MBTI is collaboration and team building and better work management. So we assess personalities, and based on the assessments, if I know, for example, let's suppose Mohan is extrovert, I'll be treating him differently. If I know Jashri has a different work style, I would be treating her differently, right? So if I know the different work style of my team member, I'll be better positioned to treat them in a right manner. So MBTI is not just for individual self-reflection, it's for the team to overall improve the performance. All right, thank you. Okay, Lala, you have chosen option C.
Yeah, I thought since both sides, one of saying that one group saying we should share for confidentiality, one group saying we should not be. So I think it would be better if we just shared anonymized team results to highlight overall work style preferences. So just shared anonymous.
All right, so suppose we all have gone through the MBTI test and now I'm presenting the report. So based on our report, 3 people are extroverts, 4 people are introverts, and 5 are sensing, 6 are perceiving, and some are judging. And this is the overall, understanding of teamwork style. Lala, how helpful is this information for you?
Yeah, it would not be helpful, but I mean, if somebody really doesn't want to share it, would it not be against their confidentiality that you go share their, personal preferences, work styles with everybody? So over here, the group saying that they really don't want to be shared.
Okay, so we can eliminate this. Okay, I agree with you. We are not going to share. Should share the results openly with the entire team? No, we are not going to do that because some team members, they have some privacy concerns. Okay, but Lela, what's wrong with option D?
Discuss alternative way to foster collaboration team member. Yeah, I guess we can bring the teams and just find out if there's alternative ways that we can share it for collaboration with, But again, we might have one person that they don't want to be shared, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, what's happening in this statement? There is a conflict. Some team members are going for option A, some team members are going for option B, right? And you can't do both at the same time. And you can't do one at the same time, right? It's not possible. If that is the situation, you should go for find an alternative. Like, okay, we are not going to use MBTI because there is a difference of opinion. Some team members are not comfortable. So sharing the results, we can't do that. Keep the results confidential for individual self-reflection. I have already explained MBTI is not just for individual reflection. Share anonymized team results to highlight overall work style. MBTI is not for overall work style. MBTI is to test specific and individual's work style so that you are better positioned to treat them according to their preferences. So C is not the right answer. Correct answer is if nothing is working, talk to the team and come up with an alternative, right? Whatever, that could be anything else. Maybe you're using another assessment method. Maybe you're using games or any other activity that is helpful to understand each other, right? So correct answer is option D. All other options are incorrect, right? Let's read the explanation. All right, next question. All right, Vivek, you have chosen option C.
Yes. So by looking at the situation, the person cannot actually seek the expert opinion that will not result any final solution. So option A I have eliminated. Even option B is like not actually practical. We cannot actually deny any opportunity for our growth. So option B is also not relevant. And temporary accept the wait and then accept and wait for complete component project manager is something again impractical. So actually in real-time situations, someone will not wait for that long to get suitable options. So best way is to take the role and seek the proper training and mentorship. So
all right, so Vivek, I have a PMP course starting tomorrow and I'll traveling. Could you please teach that?
not possible.
Why? I mean,
Because
take
of
the opportunity.
skill sets and all.
Take the opportunity, seek training, mentorship. You have time and do that. You just said you cannot deny the opportunities for growth, and why can't you do that?
Okay.
All right, just a question, okay? You could be right. I just posed a question.
Yeah.
Okay. Laila, you have chosen option D.
So over here, they're saying that obviously without an experience, they were nominated for the project, right? So I think the best option here, like you would take for temporarily for the position until they bring somebody whose expertise or who's capable of doing the project, right? So I think in that case, D would make more sense. Seek expert opinion about this situation. I mean, if I go to manager saying, "Hey, I'm not competent for this job," this would not resolve the problem here, right? Like we said, this is not a solution. Explain why they are not suitable for the role. I mean, I don't know if that would help the solution again. I mean, problem here again. I think the best option here for this would be taking the position, accept it for until they bring somebody who's more experienced.
All right, okay, thank you for explanation. So this question is slightly different because this is purely PMIism. And if you recall, we talked about PMI Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct under the team charter discussion, right? We talked about four values which are mentioned under PMI Ethics and Code of Professional Conduct. Anybody who could recall those four values written under PMI Code of Professional Conduct? Anyone, please? So there are four values, right? First is responsibility. We should be responsible for our actions. Second, respect. We should be respectful no matter what. Third is honesty. means always say truth. And the last one is fairness, means no biasness. So this is all about being honest. So if you're not expert about the thing, so it says without experience in managing a software project, right? Without experience of managing a software project, nominated by their company for a key software development project. One, you don't have any experience. Second, the project for which you're nominated is an important project. So ethical practices explain to your management that you're not suitable for the role. All other options are irrelevant. If you haven't done anything, if you're not experienced, there is no point of accepting that opportunity, right? Even if you temporarily accept, what would you do if you temporarily accept that position? So be straightforward, be upfront, and tell them like you're not suitable for this role, and then see what they say, right? This is the best practice. This is what we are supposed to do. But I understand in normal situation, we don't do that. But according to PMI Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct, we should be honest. And one of the requirements of being honest or honesty is explain the situation, right? Explain to your management that you're not suitable for this role. And yes, if they still say, then you can find an alternative. So correct answer is option B. All other options are incorrect. Let's read the explanation. All right, next question. All right, Vivek, you have chosen option B.
So for agile, the main goal is to manage self-organized teams, and with having the old style of project management, like it hampers like the morale of the team, and because of their excessive involvement in the project managers. That's the main reason. The scrum master or the project manager should work as a servant leader, not a traditional management or leader type role. Is not it's unhealthy for the agile projects.
All right, thank you. But Vivek, if project manager is heavily involved in your project and they are assisting you in everything, is it always bad?
It is not bad, but again, agile principles or agile mindset is to have the self-organized cross-functional teams. They should find out the solution for their own problems, and if required, project manager can help them, but not in each and every step. They should guide them and coach them wherever required.
Yeah, that's right. Agile fosters self-organization, but why? Why not in traditional projects? For example, we have a waterfall projects. Why traditional leadership works there, but not in agile? What's the reason? Or why the morale of the team doesn't go down when they are working in waterfall environment? Why only in an agile? What's the difference here?
Major difference is the scope. We know that what we are doing in the waterfall model, that what we are going to produce at the end, where in agile we are unaware about the end result.
Right. So yes, you're right. The major difference is scope of work. Major difference is you're not aware what exactly you're going to do in agile, and in waterfall, you know. That's the difference. Now, based on this concept, why traditional leadership style is considered unhealthy when you are managing work about which you are not sure? or when work is uncertain. So work is uncertain, you have traditional management, heavy involvement from the project manager. How does it affect your team or overall project management? That is the question. But good try, Vivek. You think, meanwhile, let me talk to Manmeet. Manmeet, you have chosen option D.
I was in between A and D, but it's an agile project, and I believe traditional methods are controlling, because of the authority being given to the project manager. So when there's authority given to one person, their mindsets, to my experience, their mindsets may not get aligned with the new per people who have creativity and innovation in their head. So that's why I overcome and picked option D instead of A.
That's absolutely correct. So what's happening here? Uh, the authority rests with one person, right? So PM is all in all. And for every decision and for everything, team members, they have to rely on project manager. So when you have predictive environment, when there is less creativity and innovation is needed, then it works. You have everything planned, right? So you follow the direction and it works. But when you have to be creative, right, you can't rely on single individual, because creativity is not the job of a single individual. So if you follow the traditional management structure, your reliance on project manager increases. In order to be innovative and creative, you need to be self-organized. You need to be responsible. You need to be accountable. And that only happens if project manager is servant leader and authority is shifted from project manager to team. So that is the fundamental difference between waterfall projects and agile projects, right? So if you are managing an agile project, team members need to be authorized to make decision, to be innovative, to be creative, to come up with the solution, to come up with the next course of action, right? So authority should be bottom up rather than top down. So the only problem here is that innovation and creativity are compromised due to dependence on the project manager. Since authority lies with the project manager, all team members are dependent on PM. They are not self-organized, right? They don't have authority to make decision, and ultimately creativity and innovation is compromised. All other options are incorrect. Most of the PM time is wasted on micromanagement activities. That's not the key concern, right? So for example, if PM time is going in micromanaging activities in waterfall, that is good, right? And even if it goes in agile, it doesn't matter, because ultimately team is responsible to complete the work. We are not concerned with PM time because most of the work is done by the self-organized team. So PM time does not matter here. It hampers team's morale due to excessive involvement of the project manager. It hampers team morale if project manager is involved in the project. If project manager is taking care of all the things, then it shouldn't compromise the morale of the team member if it is helpful. Decision making is not accurate. So how involvement of project manager could make the decision making inaccurate? Yes, we can say decision making is not fast or it is slow. It makes sense. But accuracy, no. All other options are incorrect. Option D is correct. Innovation and creativity is compromised. Let's read the explanation.
I think answer is D, right?
Okay, let me see. Yes, it's a typo.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for clarity, because explanation is in line with D. I was about to say, it seems like Manmeet has access to my computer, because whatever she explained is exactly whatever is written here.
I actually did it from my personal experience.
All right, thank you. Okay, next question. All right. Daniela, you have chosen option B.
Yeah, I thought that was exactly the definition of work breakdown structure. Sorry, I have selected B, because each work package is basically an independent piece of work which is unique, which can be assigned to a team member or maybe multiple team members, which have a certain responsibility. So the others options, they didn't seem to be relevant, even if they partially true. So
All
yeah,
right.
you can do it to multiple teams. You have a greater flexibility when you schedule, but that's not the purpose. Yeah.
All right.
Main purpose.
All right.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. Okay, Paul, you have chosen option B.
Yeah, in order to not, as it's written, to avoid tasks and activities to be duplicated. Basically, by working in a more predictive with a work breakdown structure, I guess that will be my choice.
All right, thank you. So yes, correct answer is option B, to avoid duplication of work and overlapping responsibility. Mutually exclusive means both the work package are independent of each other. Whatever work is documented in one is different from whatever work is under other work package, right? So both are different. And why they are different? To avoid duplication of work. To ensure that each work package can be assigned to multiple team members doesn't make sense. If we have duplication of work, how we can assign to multiple team members? To allow for greater flexibility, if we have duplication of work, how we can have flexibility? No idea. To enable easier changes to the project scope, it has nothing to do with project scope. So correct answer is option B, to avoid duplication of work. Let's read the explanation. All right, so mutually exclusive means each work package or the work that is mentioned is distinct and does not overlap with the other one, right? So it is independent. All right, next question. All right, Francis, you have chosen option C.
Okay, I chose a user story because it's through user story that the user can give a feedback to the developer. So if they're able to do all these options, I think they're using all these options as part of the user story, then they can give a feedback to the developer or be verified if it's working correctly.
All right, so you're saying it's a user story.
Yes.
Why it's a user story?
I think, to my understanding, a user story, the user story before they go into product backlog, sometimes they're given, depends on the feedback from the user. So in this case, I think the user, I put in the password, usernames. If it all goes well, they can give a feedback like, okay, the system is correct and it's viable, it's ready to use. Or there's also a way to recover the password.
All right, so you're saying since user is providing feedback and user story is meant to get feedback. That's why it's user story. Am I right, Francis?
Correct, yes.
All right, thank you. Lala, you have chosen option A.
Yeah, I believe this scenario describes the definition of done where one user story completes in order to go to another, so one task. Yeah, we have one task complete before, go on. If you log in, if you get it right, your credential is correct, then you go to the next, right? If it's incorrect, then it gives you error message. So I think this scenario is the definition of done.
All right, but Lala, definition of done is, it is, for example, in order to deliver a user story, whatever work team members have to do, that is called definition of done. Whatever work is considered, or whatever work has to be completed before a user story is considered done, that is called definition. For example, what could be definition of done for this? So definition of done is could be you have interface design, you have done coding,
Yeah,
you have done testing, you have done review, right? You have handled defects. Now this is definition of done. Like we have completed all the tasks to consider this user story complete in all aspects. So collection of these tasks that team members have to perform is called definition of done. So it's a checklist that says, okay, I have done this. Now it's complete, deliver it. You understand the concept of definition of done?
yeah.
Yeah, so the scenario presented in the statement is entirely different. It's like somebody's doing something and it's explained. It has nothing to do with what team is doing. It's the outcome of team's work. So when you deliver this, then somebody would use it. So this use is being described. So we're not talking about this here, okay? So this is not definition of done. All right, thank you. I'll take one more comment. Robin, you have chosen option B.
Yes, option B. What I considered there is that a use case is a sequence of activities to achieve a goal. It's somewhere in those lines, and I couldn't really relate. I could relate the question to B, but not to any of the other options. So that's why I chose B.
All right, thank you. Okay, so yes, correct answer is a use case. Use case is a customer's interaction with the system. How a user interacts with the system, that is called a use case. So use case explains user's interaction with the system. How a user will interact with the system. Is it clear, everybody? So what is system? System is the software or the product that you're producing. So how a user would interact with the system, that is called use case. Now let's talk about next thing, user persona. What is user persona? User persona tells us about the characteristics of the user, right? So for example, what's the user persona of a PMP student? So we'll say Robin is a PMP aspirant. Robin works in ABC organization. Robin is a male, right? He has free time, right? He spends his time like that. He has 2 hours per day, right? He has his computer. He likes to study online, right? He can manage 1 hour. So based on that, you design your product. So user persona is to understand the user. Use case, how a user will interact with the product. So for example, now I understand Robin's hobbies and free time and everything through user persona. Now I will see, okay, if I develop a system, how Robin is going to use that. So I will be developing something user-friendly according to Robin's preferences, right? So user persona is to understand user, and use case is to see how a user will be interacting with the product. That is called use case. And user story is a product feature. It's a product functionality. So for example, login, it's a functionality. Okay. So It's not definition of term, not user story, not user persona. It is use case because it explains user's interaction with the system. Let's read the explanation. All right, everybody, I hope it is clear. Next question. All right, Shri, you have chosen option B.
Yes, this is, we have two ways of crashing. So, sorry, ways of reducing the schedule, fast tracking, or sorry, two ways of uh, shortening the schedule. So one is crashing and the other is fast tracking. So in crashing, we add the resources, which is cost, adding most cost, and fast tracking, we try to do multiple activities at the same time. So in that, there are risks, means there is quality is being compromised. So there are more risks. So that is the reason why I picked fast tracking.
All right, thank you. Francis, you have chosen option C. You're on mute.
I chose yes,
yeah.
yes. Okay. I chose like resource wavering because if you are, I understand the concept of crashing and fast tracking, but if you don't have enough resources, how are you going to be your risk? You can use all these other options, but if you don't have enough resources, then therefore you have high level of risks you may encounter during the project.
All right. So you're saying resource leveling is adding more resources to balance the resource demand? This is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this can be risky if you don't have enough resources, yes.
Okay, right. So question says, a PM is attempting to shorten the project schedule for a high profile software. Which technique poses higher risk? So for example, I want to shorten the duration. So if I use crashing, fast tracking, resource leveling, feeding buffer, which one would pose the higher risk? That's the question. So for example, if I use crashing, what is crashing? Crashing means adding more resources. So if I add more resources, they would work. So there is less likely that risk would go up, right? Risk would go down because we have more resources. Now, what is resource leveling? Resource leveling is, for example, this is resource leveling for everybody. So for example, before resource leveling, your team's utilization is something like that. So one team member works for 60 hours, other works for 20 hours, third one works for 50 hours, and there is another one works for, let's suppose, 10 hours. Now, resource leveling means making sure that all the resources are working 40 hours per week, assuming that they can share each other's work. So what we will be doing, we will be moving this extra work here, maybe this work here, some work here, and whatever the extra work would be, that would be here. So ultimately, it would extend your deadline. So if our resources are leveled, there would be less risk. Means if all of you have equal work, it is less risky as compared to some of you have to work 80 hours, some of you have to work 70, 60, 30, 20. So if work is unevenly distributed, it is risky. However, if I use resource leveling, I'm lowering the project risk. So resource leveling can't be the right answer. Feeding buffer, that is a term used in critical chain method. That is different. that is relevant to student syndrome, like don't allow too much time to people. So for example, if an activity requires 20 days to complete, right? So give the team 15 days and keep 5 days as feeding buffer. So when you keep feeding buffer, when you add this, project is less risky because team members would be completing earlier. So D, A, and C, they actually minimize the risk. Fast tracking is when you're doing activities in parallel fashion. So let me talk about that quickly. So for example, this is activity A, this is activity B, this is activity C, this is activity D. Now, if I do the fast tracking, what would be that? So fast tracking would be something like this. So A would be here, B would be here, C would be here, D would be here. Now you see, team members are simultaneously working on, at this point, B, C, D. So when team members work simultaneously on a lot of activities, project is exposed to more risk. So the technique that leads to higher risk is fast tracking, where we do activities in parallel fashion, right? I hope it is clear. Let's read the explanation. All right, everybody. Last question. All right. Vivek, you have chosen option B.
Yes, so because of the requirements are getting changed frequently, so implementing the rolling wheel plan, that plan for a short duration and just complete that amount of work, then demo that work and get feedback again. So that kind of planning will help to resolve this situation. So that's why I just selected option B. The other options are also looks correct, but most relevant option is like option B.
All right, thank you. Okay. Lala, you have chosen option A.
So here we have a final deliverables to a customer that the customer is not happy. Every time we present, he's rejecting it. So if we kind of arrange frequent review and product demonstration, I think that would we would get a feedback from the customer, and then we would deliver something that he's, he's gonna accept it. And they're saying that rapid changing market dynamics. So if it's a rapid changing market, we really don't want to be waiting for too long to present for the customer. So I think option A would kind of be a better choice here.
All right. But Lala, how frequent reviews would be helpful? So what's happening? You agreed, if you see, it says you agreed on the final deliverables. So if you have already agreed on the final deliverables, how frequent reviews would be helpful?
If we kind of get a feedback from every time we review and get a feedback from the customer, right?
Okay, then what's the point of agreeing on final deliverables if you need feedback and does it make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, good. Maybe your answer is right, but this is just an important point to consider. All right, thank you. Shri, you have chosen option B. What's wrong with option A, Shri?
Yeah, this is a tricky one. Each one of these look really good. Yeah, even if we have agreed upon the final deliverables, it's changing. It's a dynamically changing market. So actually, frequent reviews is also good, because if we have that, we can understand what are the changes happening and take corrective actions. So we do not have to wait for the last final deliverable and then get back to some changes and new additions. But again, that also sounds looks good. The implement rolling wave, actually, what I thought is, if you have something planned, shorter ones, do work on that. Then again, when there are some changes, do some analysis, work on that, and then keep working on each small deliverable, which is really analyzed and worked in a clear way. But yeah, these two both they look very much close and look good. So yeah, again, I had confusion about CAP, the C also, time and material contract. This is trying to, it is trying to put a kind of restriction on the customer, saying that, okay, this is what we are paying, and you'll pay for, even though this is changing, whatever changes we make, you have to pay. So there is a cap. So if we reach the cap, we are actually stopping it, which is not good for the project. So I thought that's a bit harsh, but again, that also it was sounding okay.
And D is also
frequent
correct.
possible, means I had a little bit of confusion,
All right.
but then
All
finally
right,
I selected B. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, so Shri, option C, use a time and material contract with the cap. So yes, we are using T&M contract, but with T&M contract, we are controlling cost, right?
Yeah.
But we are not addressing the concern here, the customer rejecting the scope every time you deliver something. So yes, you are controlling cost, but what you are doing with the deliverables which are being rejected. So yes, C is helpful, but it doesn't address the problem. So again, whenever you see a question where all the options seem correct, look for the option that addresses the problem mentioned in the statement. You'll see more than one correct or right options or right things to do, but right things are not always correct. Correct thing is whatever is relevant in that situation or whatever addresses the problem. So C is not relevant. Conduct frequent retrospectives to learn from past experience. I mean,
probably that's not
it is helpful, but it doesn't address the root cause. Now, what is the root cause here? The root cause of the problem is that you agreed on final deliverables at the start of the project. You have agreed on something. However, the market dynamics are rapidly changing. That's the problem here. When market dynamics are rapidly changing and you agree on something at the start of the project, this would not work. So what you need to do, you need to divide the project into smaller portion, which you were mentioning, like smaller chunks in iterations, rather than agreeing on final deliverables, agree on near-term work. So rolling wave planning is a two-level planning where we do high-level planning for the entire project and near-term planning for the a detailed planning for the near-term work. So in near-term, what happens? Changes are not very rapid. So for example, if you have 1 month plan, what you can expect in 1 month. But if you have 1 year plan, there would be a lot of changes. So what we will be doing, we will be implementing rolling wave planning. We divide the project into smaller chunks. So rather than agreeing on final deliverable at the outset, we are not going to agree. We are just kickstarting with first iteration, right? On near-term work. We agree on near-term work. When you agree on near-term work, then there would be less changes and customer won't be rejecting. Why customer rejects? Because you deliver something based on initial agreement. But that initial agreement is no more valid because of rapidly changing market dynamics. So in order to address this, implement rolling wave planning, where you do high-level planning for the entire project and detailed planning for the near-term work. When you do near-term work planning, it's accurate as per the current market demand. So there are less chances of customer rejection. So of course, then you can arrange frequent reviews. Those are an additional advantage. But arranging additional reviews still would not solve the root cause. That is initial agreement with the final deliverable. So correct answer is option B. All other options are incorrect. Let's read the explanation. All right, everybody, thank you so much. So we are done with today's session. Just mention your score in today's session. What's your score? Because this actually reflects your actual exam preparation. 60%, 50%, 60, 50, 50, 60, 50. That's great. I mean, if you are 60%, you are getting 60% or above 50, that's really good. Anything less than 50% is problematic. Also, my next course, as I mentioned at the end of each session, it's starting on 15th. So please find some time and share these details with your friends you have received on your contact numbers. My teams might have contacted you. So please share these with your friends and colleagues who are interested. So yes. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Take good care of yourself. I'll see you tomorrow with an interesting lesson. Take care. Bye. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.